Over here on the left side of your timeline is this little tools bar. Just going to shrink that down. And each of these tools are tools that you can use on the timeline to make your work faster. So top one is your selection tool. This is, our basic arrow. It's what you see and have seen me using this whole time. And that'll just click and drag things around and highlight stuff. Shortcut to come back to our selection tool is V on the keyboard. So if I come down here and click on the razor tool and then press V on the keyboard, it'll come back to my selection tool. And that's the basic, most used tool. A couple other ones I want to teach you right now though. The first one is this one here. This is called the Ripple Edit tool. And what that does, so let's say I want to trim a clip and close that gap. So let's say, okay, I actually want this clip to end here, and then I need to click on this and drag this over to close that black gap because it creates a black gap there because there isn't a video there anymore. I could do it in 2 steps, or I could do it a faster way and click on my Ripple Edit tool, which is B on the keyboard. And what that does is if I take that over to the edge of a clip, it's no longer a red trim tool. It's actually yellow. And now when I drag that over, it will trim the clip I'm on, and it'll also close that gap at the same time. Most important thing to watch when you are using this tool is what direction the little yellow arrow is pointing. Because right now it's pointing back towards this clip, which means when I click on it, that's the clip it's going to trim. If I bring it on the other side of the cut here, and it's pointing forward towards this clip, and I drag, instead of shortening this clip and closing the gap and dragging this over, it's going to extend the clip on the right side and push the other one out of the way. Or in this case, because this one couldn't be pushed out of the way, it's just going to extend the clip and push everything in this direction out of the way. So pay attention to what direction that little arrow is pointing, but I use this tool every single time I edit. It's incredibly useful. Next tool I want you to know is the razor tool. C on the keyboard, C for cut is how I like to think of it. And what the razor tool does is it will create cuts in clips you already have on the timeline. So let's say I would like to cut a chunk out of this clip and put it somewhere else in my edit. I can create 2 more cuts and then come back to my selection tool and grab that clip and move it out of the way without changing anything else earlier or later in the clip. It could also be a way to trim. It's a little slower though, but that's also a very useful tool. A little further down, I've got the pen tool. Pen tool is another way to create fades. So if I've got this audio, and let's say this is the end of my video right here, if I click on the pen tool, I could come down to this white line we talked about before, create 2 points, right? I click here, it created the first point, I stayed on that line, created a second point, and now if I click on point number 2 and drag that down, it'll actually gradually bring the volume of the audio down until it's completely faded out. It could also be useful if you have a dialogue scene and the music comes in strong and you want to turn it down for just a second. Then I can create 2 other points in the line. I can create as many points in the line as I want and drag this one down here to around -7 and this one down here to -7-ish. Okay, and now my audio starts here, it turns down, and then at the end it fades out completely. And if I play that back, I should be able to see that over here in my audio levels. Starts up high, gets quieter, and then completely drowns out. Pen tool also works on video. So if I expand out a video track, and then I don't have a line here to create a dot on, but if I right click on this little effects button and then go to opacity, that little line will pop up. Okay, and I can do the exact same thing I did with audio. I can create a couple points and then fade out that video. And it fades to black. Something super cool about this actually, what that's actually affecting is the opacity of the clip or how see-through it is. So if I take that and put it on top of this clip here, and I can expand out the track and you'll see the points are still on the clip, and then I put my playhead partway through that fade I created with my points, I can actually see both clips at the same time. So if I didn't want to even use the pen tool and create these points, I could just take the opacity of this clip, just click on it and drag that down to about half. And now anything under that clip, I'll also be able to see. So if I play this now, it's two clips at once. So that's opacity and pen tool. Last tool I want to talk about is down here at the bottom, and that's our zoom tool. A bunch of different ways to zoom in and out in Premiere. If I click on the zoom tool, I can come over onto my timeline, and now when I click, it'll zoom in. And I could hold down the option key, and it'll turn into a minus, and I can zoom out. One way I like to zoom a lot is if I come down here to my scroll bar that goes left and right, I can actually click on the edge of that and drag, and that'll also change my zoom. Go all the way in, all the way out. And then last way to zoom in and out are the plus and minus keys on the keyboard up by delete. I can hit minus to zoom out and plus to zoom in. So there's always a ton of different ways to do things in Premiere depending on what you're doing. Last thing I want to show you is speed changes. So if you right click on a clip, it'll give you tons and tons of options and things you can do, and we'll talk about all of them eventually. But one that I know you're probably going to want to use sooner rather than later is a speed change. So if I come down here and click on speed and duration, it'll pop up with a new window, and I could increase or decrease the speed of my clip past 100% to 200% or 300% or even higher. If I click OK on that, you can see because the clip sped up, it got shorter. And now when I play it, well, you can't tell. Let me extend it. Now when I play it, right, it's moving a lot faster. Same thing, I can slow it down, put it at 50%, and if I play it now, right, it's definitely a lot slower than it was. One other thing you can do in that speed and duration window is reverse speed of a clip. If I keep this at 100% and then click reverse, it'll actually play my clip backwards. So now instead of dollying in on her, it's dollying out. That's everything on tools. Go ahead, take a look at your clips and try and create a story out of them. So you have the song, make a 30-second promo, go ahead and use the whole song and try and tell a story with all the clips you have. Some clips have audio, some clips don't. You have a couple of sound effects down here. So go ahead and create an edit, and then when you're done editing, I will talk about titling and exporting.